Hi all, I'm back with another monologue reading for my 30 Days of Shakespeare, which has dragged out past 30 days. I'm very sorry. Quite frankly, I ran out of steam, so just doing the last couple in August, but hopefully they're still useful to you. I have had a request for Adriana's His Company Must Do His Minions Grace from the Comedy of Errors. Now, I said yes to that request and then immediately was like, oh man, I actually don't know the Comedy of Errors that well. So I wanted to make sure that I have something to offer you in this reading, and I do have a couple of things that I'm going to talk about after I do the reading. But before I do, I want you to think about antithesis. This is the big one with this monologue. She is kind of comparing things and she's setting up a lot of things sort of in opposition to each other. And because the monologue is kind of, it reminds me of Helena's How Happy Some or Other Some Can Be, but she's just basically describing for the audience's benefit, really, what's going on in their relationship. So it's actually quite a lot of information. There's relationship information, there's situational information there, and you have to really concentrate on like, am I making this clear? I would say don't necessarily focus so much on like, how do I feel about this? It's like, will someone understand what I'm saying? And in order to do that, you need to think about antithesis. And that is when you're thinking about setting words against the other. Now, she sometimes does that when she's talking about, over there he does this, and then at home he does this. So you've got to think about sort of emphasizing those words so people understand what she's comparing. And then there's also kind of descriptive words where she does that, like sharp and blunt. They're kind of set up against each other, those kinds of things. So look for little opposites or comparative things and really make sure you bring those out in some way. So I'm gonna read it and I'll do my best to do that. Let's see what I can do for you. His company must do his minions grace, whilst I at home starve for a merry look. Hath homely age the alluring beauty took from my poor cheek? Then he hath wasted it. Are my discourses dull, barren my wit? If voluble and sharp discourse be marred, unkindness blunts it more than marble hard. Do their gay vestments his affection bait? That's not my fault, he's master of my state. What ruins are in me that can be found by him not ruined? Then he is the ground of my defeatures. My decayed fair, a sunny look of his would soon repair. But, too unruly dear, he breaks the pale and feeds from home. Poor iron but his stale. Unfeeling fools can with such wrongs dispense. I know his eye doth homage otherwhere, or else what lets it but he would be here. Sister, you know he promised me a chain. Would that alone he would detain, so he would keep fair quarter with his bed. I see the jewel best enamelled will lose his beauty. And though gold bides still that others touch, yet often touching will wear gold. And no man that hath a name by falsehood and corruption doth it shame. Since that my beauty cannot please his eye, I'll weep what's left away, and weeping die. Okay, so the first thing I want to say is, you could do this in a lot of different ways. The way that I was doing it just then, I think, like I was trying to go for a more truthful version of it, but you might not agree, but that's fine. She's a sort of character, I think, that could really vary from production to production. And that means if you're doing it for an audition, for example, you need to think about how you think her character functions. And it's a really tricky one because you will need to think about the kind of style that you want to perform in. If you know the director that you're auditioning for, then this is the kind of monologue where you need to think, okay, they go for like a really, camp comedy style, and then you want to make it more like, maybe she's being really sullen, maybe she's being really sassy, go a bit more over the top with it. But if it's for drama school, for example, I'd probably do a more truthful version. Or if you know that the director that you're auditioning for likes a more sort of truthful style, not that big and camp is not truthful, it's just different. But what I'm talking about is more pulled back, more grounded in the everyday, I suppose, is a way to put it. So I was trying to go for more of that sort of naturalism style where she is genuinely hurting. So that's, I think, what's going on here is that you need to think a little bit about the genuine hurt that's there and how much you're going to play for that, or how much you're going to play up the, like, that she is the kind of nagging wife stereotype. And there's no really wrong answer. There's no wrong answer. Yeah, it's a really tricky one. So I would certainly look for some feedback when you're working on it, and see if it's working. Like Helena's How Happy Some or Other Some Can Be monologue, it can sound like just a bunch of whining for a long time. So I think you do need to think about, like, why is she saying this? Has she made any decisions during the course of the monologue? Does she want her sister to say something different? Because obviously in the middle of this, her sister is like, stop worrying about that stuff. And she's like, that's not helpful. So what does this monologue do for her? What does she want to get out of saying all this stuff? Does she just need to talk about it? In which case, maybe she just like goes a bit, maybe she vents more in it. I certainly think you could get quite angry about it, as well as, feeling that hurt. I always like to give a warning. Generally with Shakespeare, try not to go for the, like, I'm sad. I just see too much of that where people are like, oh, you've been doing this to me. Shakespeare's women generally are not that self-pitying, mostly. So find the fire. So that's my kind of mini breakdown / reading. And I'd love to hear your thoughts, and especially if you're someone that knows the comedy areas well, I'd love to hear what you like about it. I am definitely inspired to go and revisit the comedy of errors a bit more, because the language in this is actually very interesting and quite intricate. So you really need to know what she's saying exactly at each point. She talks in very kind of roundabout ways sometimes. Right, that's it. I'm gonna leave it there. I'll see you guys in the next video.